Great to be here. Thank you. A bit like the previous presenters, I feel very honoured to be here, and great to be talking to you all. Now, you're probably going into the bit of the afternoon lull. I do have the graveyard shift, but if it's any consolation, for me right now, it's I think about 9:30 tomorrow morning. And yesterday, when we landed from Sydney, meant that we repeated Wednesday. So I'm a little bit bent out of shape, you would say. Which actually reminds me, I had a friend of mine was talking to me about a recruitment consultancy who they were looking for a new contortionist for one of those circus companies, like the Moscow Circus or Cirque du Soleil. Anyway, so they found this contortionist and they got him in front of the circus people, and they said, "Oh, okay, you're a contortionist. How flexible are you?" And he goes, "I'm very flexible. I just don't work Tuesdays." All right, tough crowd. Yeah, you did. Look, my take on today's theme is actually really taking a focus on people and our people. So as people in this room who are responsible for businesses and for your own community, which is your employees, I'm going to take a look at that. I think when I apply it to 7 miles, and as I go through this, what I hope to do is give you an insight into how 7 miles also ticks. But it's absolutely to talk to you about how, by focusing on being a good citizen to our employees, we have a thriving culture, we have the best customer feedback we've ever had, and we have double-digit growth in a company that's 50 years old this year. So we know that we're onto a good thing. So I think the first place to start when you're looking at values and you're thinking about what's going to make a good community is to actually think about your own values. What makes you tick as a human being? And I think those values are really important, and I think they probably come from your mums, your dad, your parents, the people around you at school. And for me, actually, it came from my mum. And she said, "Have courage and be kind." And that was a philosophy that I had embedded in me from a very early age. And what it means is, it means to back yourself. Courage comes from the word cœur in French for heart. So it's have heart. Back yourself. Know where you're heading. Know what you're doing. And I think for me, when I look at that, I think all the change that's happening in today's world, everything we've heard about, all the technology disruption, think about all the things you have to face as a human being every day. Courage today is even more relevant than it's ever been. And I think, actually, you need so much of it just to contend with what's going on out there. And actually, thinking about change is as inevitable as death and taxes, right? So you have to embrace it. You have to find ways through it. And I think courage actually is that thing that helps us succeed. And look, as for the kindness bit, I'm not going to sit up here and go, "I get this right, I'm the kindest person I know." Absolutely, I try and look at any situation and deal with anything with a humility and a vulnerability, because that also takes courage. But I've always believed that the same values that you hold dear in a personal relationship, think about your personal connections. When you feel good, it's because you've got a great relationship with someone, and it's based on trust, there's respect, there's all of those great values inherent in a personal relationship. They should exist in a professional relationship. And actually, who isn't going to love being treated sensitively, fairly, in a company that cares about its people? So at 7 miles, we've adapted my mum's phrase, and we call it the courage to progress and the importance of kindness. And what this is really about is about how a good citizen approach to our business is allowing us to grow, how it's been a galvanizer. It's really helped everybody kind of understand what we're about and where we're going. So what I'll do now, as the CEO of a company called 7 Miles, I'm going to give you 7 insights into how, by focusing on employees, focusing on your people, you can set yourself up for long-term growth. So, my first insight, not revolutionary based on a lot of the things that have been discussed this morning, but to make sure that everyone understands why it is that company exists. Why do we come to work every day? What is it that actually makes us tick? I think there's many, many studies on the importance of purpose. I think you just look at the work that EY have done, Millward Brown, Jim Stengel. They all talk about companies with purpose outperform the market, and quite dramatically so. Peter Drucker, he once observed that the most successful company is not the one with the most brains, but the one with the most brains acting in concert. You need purpose to create unity. And 7 Miles, we've been through tremendous change. I started a year ago. Yep, absolutely, I'm an outsider. I have learned so much in my first year in coffee, and I love it. But actually, when I joined 12 months ago, the business had taken a big decision about 2 years before to change from Bellaroma Coffee Company to 7 Miles Roasters, to future-proof itself for the next 50 years. But in doing so, what we hadn't done was actually say, what are we about? Why does 7 Miles exist? What's the cohesion? What's the glue? And that's what we needed to do. So my first job was to go in and create cohesion. And to do that, I had to go and spend a lot of time listening. And I had a great mentor who always, and I always think about this, 2 ears and 1 mouth. And you should use that in that ratio. And actually listening to everybody in the company, talking to our customers, they told me the purpose of our company. They threw words at me which actually just needed someone to go, I'm going to bring that together and we're going to create our purpose. And actually very similar to counterculture, we have a passionate pursuit for exceptional coffee. So everything that we do at 7 Miles is in the passionate pursuit of exceptional coffee. It's actually the glue that brings us together. It's the guiding principle. It informs our decisions. So my first insight in really helping your employees understand and setting yourselves up for long-term growth is to create unity through purpose. My second, outline what is valued. And again, we've talked about values quite a bit through the day, and I think this is really important. How can you create a community if you don't know what it is that the community is all about? It's actually really important that as a prospective employee, or actually as the employer bringing in people, that we have something, a barometer to understand, are they going to fit in with our culture? And I'm not talking about cookie-cutter people. I'm not saying we have the same types of people. We have a hugely diverse employee base, a hugely diverse customer base. But actually underpinning that as a set of values, which means we know that we're all going to work together well. So we have three sets, I suppose. And what these actually do is, they create that kind of sense of what we're all about. But importantly, these are values that we ask people to live up to, live and breathe by. And we actually ask employees to benchmark themselves against these when it comes to performance conversations. How do you think you have lived up to this value today? What is it that has made you, think that? Give some examples. It's really important. So we have integrity, empathy, and kindness. Not huge words by any stretch of the imagination, but actually they're really powerful. They're very powerful words. They make people feel good, and they mean that we can actually make people feel accountable, because if they don't act in this way, we have something to say about it. We also value team players and collaborators. So again, I'm not saying that everybody does everything together, but what we do is value people who actually want feedback. They want someone to help build upon their ideas, make their strategies stronger. And the third value we have is the courage to progress. And people say to me, Jenny, that's not a value. You can't value that. And I say, well, look, okay, not literally, it's not trust or respect or whatever, but it is a value, because actually what we do value is the courage it takes just to try something, the courage it takes to back yourself, the courage it takes to move forward. And in today's world, change, evolution, it's just constant. So that ability to back yourself is really important. And actually, It could just be the courage of just turning up that day because you've got some personal traumas going on at home. I don't know. And I think that's fantastic, that the courage it's taken to get into work that day is actually equally as valued as the courage it takes to create a new brand, to create a new blend, to build a new relationship, to take a new format. They're equally as important. It's the courage to progress. So outline what is valued. My next insight. Understand how you go about business. Again, this isn't revolutionary. I'm talking to a very senior room. But actually, this is one of the things I find is never really spelt out. I think people spend a lot of time going, here's our purpose, here's our values. But actually, what are the things in your business that define how you do it? I mean, look, for us, it's pretty simple. We're a coffee roasting business. So, of course, one of our absolute pillars is we are very committed to making sure we roast the very best. I mean, it's, again, pretty obvious, and we've got lots of things and proof points around that to make sure that we do, but we have others. So we have a pillar that is very much focused on our customers. We care about our customers. We want to make sure that we give them the right solution. We also embrace change and wisdom. So we established the Coffee Science and Education Centre, which is absolutely there to ensure that all the latest and greatest things that are happening in the world are looked at. And we have my colleague who's here today. He is a chemical engineer and uses science to validate what we're talking about. One of the insights I have coming into the industry is there's actually, I hate saying the word fluff, but there is just a lot of stuff that is just said that actually has no empirical data behind it to validate that it actually does have an effect on the coffee and the experience. And we really want to make sure that we use all the great things out there to make sure that we are bringing that together. But importantly, we back our team. That is actually how we go about business. We back our team. We make sure that they can grow and thrive, that they can be successful, that they feel good about coming to 7 Miles. And I'll talk a little bit about the types of things that we do when I get onto another insight. So my next one is relentlessly cheerlead. As a CEO, obviously the thing that I take the most responsibility for is not just my employees, but their families. I have a commitment, therefore, to make sure that our business is thriving, so that these individuals and their families can thrive too. It's a really important thing, and I take it very seriously. But it's also my role to clear the path, to make sure that where we're heading is very, very clear, to make sure that they know the journey that we're on, and to make sure they know where we're going. And that needs constant reminding. You need to cheerlead. You need to support. You need to help your people. There's a lot of rhetoric out there that talks about great leadership is actually when the leader's at the back, just encouraging people forward. And I agree. But I actually also think great leadership is about knowing the position you need to be in as a CEO, depending on where your company is on its journey. So sometimes you need to be at the front and you need to be leading the cavalry charge into the next journey. Sometimes you do need to be at the back, encouraging and knowing that the path is clear and that they can thrive. And sometimes it means holding their hand and being the guiding force and gently using them there. And I think the other thing here is spending so much time out in the field. I get amazed by when I'm talking to my peers at how few of them actually get out there and talk to their customers. How do you know how you're running a business, whether your business is actually meeting a need, if you're not out there? So I spend a lot of time with my team out on the road. We're up and down the east coast of Australia. We've got 800 plus customers, mainly cafe customers. And I spend a lot of time meeting them to understand what they're about and what they need from us. But it's also an opportunity for me to tell them about some of the things that we're doing in response to some of the feedback they may have given us. It's a vital thing, but it's a relentless job, and it's relentlessly cheerlead. But I'm only one person, and we have a leadership team. And that leadership team, it's really important that they are aligned also to the journey that you are on. And actually, it was us who defined our company purpose, our values, our ambition, where we're heading, what business growth we want, what do we want our people to be able to succeed in. And we actually did a lot of work. So we've done all of the typical things. We go on off-sites and we have a workshop and all of those things. And they've been really productive, great. But actually the most important thing was a session we did where we actually broke down personal barriers. So we actually got people to talk to each other about the things that they didn't quite like about each other. It's quite confronting. But it was so incredibly powerful because everyone's like, okay, I get it. I know how I'm going to work with you. And it creates a better sense of cohesion as a leadership team. And you can't expect your people, your company to act cohesively if at the top you're not doing so too. If you are not aligned to where you're heading, you cannot expect your employees to do so. You therefore cannot expect your customers to know what you're about. So very important, align your leadership team. And the sixth here is generate employee value. What I mean by that is generate things which really make your employees feel so positive about why they're at work, why they're working at 7 Miles, why they're working at your company. And we have several things that we've done. I'll just give you a couple. So we have new role profiles, the job description. When I joined, the job descriptions we had, they came from a very large FMCG company, but they just weren't relevant. They were too big, too unwieldy. Let's just simplify them, make them very easy to understand. But this is the bit that I think, I love that what we did is that we created a contract in there, and we did two things. The first was, tell us an experience where you have been best managed. Who was the best manager you ever had? Write it down, tell us about it, because we want to know how we can get the best out of you. What's going to help you thrive in the role that you do? And we get them to write that. And then importantly, we actually get them to talk to us about work-life balance. Because there's a couple of things here. One is I fundamentally believe people who have that do better. They're more productive, they're happier, they want to come to work because they actually do believe that they've got this thing, this magic thing called work-life balance. But we get them to write down what it is that's going to enable them, again, to achieve that. Whether it's flexibility, whether it's leaving early one day to go and pick up their child from school, whatever it might be, university, study, doesn't matter. And then we enable that. We allow them to do that. We trust that they can do that job and that they can get the work-life balance. And I think, when we're talking about, the fact that Uber and all of the those kind of disruptive companies coming in, and that allows people to do work on their own terms, actually doing something like this is actually really critically important, and it is a way of trying to show that we do genuinely care about what's going to make those people succeed. We also have a new employee performance review, which is centered around having kind of powerful conversations. It's not a 1 year, once a year you get your performance review. It's a constant conversation, and again, it's enabling people just to talk about what's happening, how are they feeling. It's a position for me to get feedback on whether we as a company are doing the right things by our employees, what are the things that we are doing that's helping them succeed. We have regular check-ins. But we also have new employee perks. So this is just making sure that we're trying to help our people do well. So whether it be rebates for gym membership, having your birthday day off, whether it's food trucks that come regularly to the roasteries that we have up and down the coast, again, it doesn't matter, but it's a sign of care and of wanting our people to be successful. And it's generating this employee value. So the seventh is not really an insight. It's actually what will happen as a result of the first 6. It's expect growth. I'm not saying that we sit around making daisy chains and singing songs. We are a very happy team, right? We're awesome, and we have great culture, as said. We also have really ambitious people. I am an ambitious, relentless CEO. But I will do it with humility and with kindness and with vulnerability when I need to. When I feel that actually, if I can understand what it is that's going to make my people tick, I can make the company tick, I can generate top-line growth, I can generate bottom-line growth, I can make my shareholders and my board happy, but I've done it all by focusing on the employees. And I believe that my legacy, when you're taking on a company that is called 7 Miles, that was Bellaroma, that is well regarded in the industry, it's a tough gig to come into, particularly as an outsider. And there was a lot of skepticism about, okay, well, who is this person? She doesn't know coffee. I actually hadn't drunk a coffee in 5 years when I started, due to an experience actually in the US, which totally put me off coffee. But but pleasingly, it's okay now. But I'm now back up to 3 a day, and I love it. But I think my legacy needs to be about setting the foundations for the next 50 years, making sure that we have a business that can thrive, that can continue to grow and evolve, and that by backing our people, that we can do that, and that we look after our people, you will look after your business. And in essence, that's what this is. It's courage, that backing yourselves, acting with courage, you can create a business that will thrive for the long term, and for your employees, and for you. You know, you're the leaders of these companies, these great coffee businesses. And that's up to you. That's up to you to take courage, but please remember to be kind. Thank you.
Thank you so much.